And today I would like to talk to you about how to increase a muscle group that is lacking for you. And I'm gonna give examples from my own experience as well as my clients and some other people I know of. So for me personally, when I started training my whole body, because I started without training the entire body, so when I did train the whole body, I started with the Rip Toes program, which is a program more focused on strength and compound exercises, so mostly deadlifts, squats, bench press, and for the rest it was chin-ups and dips, and not very much isolation exercises for the arms, so not much isolation exercises. So it was more of a compound strength regiment training. And then I followed this style of training for a lot because I read a bunch of professionals saying you shouldn't focus on isolation for arms exercises like tricep extensions and bicep curls a lot. So I followed their advice and focused on compound exercises with very few sets of arm exercise, isolation exercise per week. So I followed this way of training for years, and until recently, until like 3 or 4 years ago, I changed my approach on training and did more of isolation exercises, especially for the arms, because after these years, like 10 years, I noticed that my biceps almost didn't grow at all. I mean, sure, I did gain quite a bit of strength in the biceps for bicep exercises, but however, I didn't gain much size at all. So, like 3 or 4 years ago, I started focusing much more on biceps and doing much more sets, like I would do before this, like 4 to 6 sets per week, or up to 8 sets of isolation bicep exercises per week only. But ever since the last 3 years or so, I've been doing like 16 sets per week approximately, like 2 times per week. I focus on biceps and arms for about 8 sets per session and about 15-16 sets of isolation per week. And over the last year I even increased this to like over 20 sets sometimes per week. And so I finally noticed a growth in the bicep. And for example, I finally started seeing the veins of the biceps, which was never the case before. So the veins of the bicep finally popped off and showed off. And keep in mind, even though for most of this time I was on a cut, or for a big amount of time of this I was on a cut, so it was very hard to gain muscle, probably even lost some muscle. But I mean, as I said, the results speak for themselves, and I finally got results for the biceps. So in closing, I would like to say that if you're lacking in an area, then try to add more sets and focus on this area more. So for example, you may not be doing enough sets, because for everybody the amount of training is different to gain stuff. So for example, as they say, you should do 8 to 22 sets per week per muscle group. For some people 8 might be enough. For others it may be like me. For the bicep, for example, it was closer to 15 to 20 sets per week, and that is without counting the compound exercises like which involve the biceps, like chin-ups and pull-ups and deadlifts for the forearms, and bent over rows. So just isolation exercises on their own were increased, as I mentioned, to like 16 to 22 sets per week. So in closing, if you're lacking in an area, you should try increasing sets. You're probably making like 12 sets a week. Maybe it's not enough to start seeing more gains. Maybe you should increase to like 16, 18, just even increasing by 5 more sets